Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for standing by for the 2020 third quarter earnings conference call for HUYA Inc. At this time, all participants are in a listen-only mode. Today's conference call is being recorded. I'll now turn the call over to Ms. Dana Chen, Company Investor Relations. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to HUYA's 2020 third quarter earnings conference call. The company's financial and operational results were issued earlier today and are posted online. You can also view the earnings press release by visiting the IR website at ir.huya.com. A replay of the call will be available on the IR website in a few hours. Participants on today's call will be Mr. Rongjie Dong, Chief Executive Officer of HUYA, and Ms. Catherine Liu, Chief Financial Officer. Management will begin with prepared remarks, and the call will conclude with a Q&A session. Before we continue, please note that today's discussion will contain forward-looking statements made under the safe harbor provisions of the U.S. Private Securities Litigation Reform Act of 1995. Forward-looking statements involve inherent risks and uncertainties. As such, the company's results may be materially different from the views expressed today. Further information regarding these and other risks and uncertainties is included in the company's prospectus and other public filings as filed with the U.S. SEC. The company does not assume any obligation to update any forward-looking statements except as required under applicable law. So please also note that HUYA's earnings press release and this conference call include discussions of unaudited GAAP financial information, as well as unaudited non-GAAP financial measures. HUYA's press release contains a reconciliation of the unaudited non-GAAP measures to the unaudited most directly comparable GAAP measures. I will now turn the call over to our CEO, Mr. Rongjie Dong. Please go ahead.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our conference call today. We achieved solid results this quarter, and excitingly, the investments we have made in content, products, and services are continuing to drive the growth of HUYA's businesses and user communities. In Q3, our total revenues grew by 24% year-over-year to 2.8 billion, while our gross profit increased by 53% year-over-year to 621 million, keeping us in a strong position to fund our future growth and capture the opportunities ahead. Despite a relatively shorter summer vacation period due to the impact of COVID-19 in China, the average MAUs of HUYA Live still grew to 173 million in Q3, a net addition of over 4 million from last quarter and up 18% year-over-year. Additionally, an average of over 25 million users each month during the quarter watched HUYA's live streaming content across Tencent and other third-party platforms, nearly double last quarter. Altogether, we provided our compelling content to close to an average of 200 million users every month in Q3. The growth was mostly driven by the increase in esports tournaments, as well as a deeper cooperation with Tencent. In Q3, our live streaming content was broadcasted in Tencent's various products such as QQ Mobile, WeGame, WeChat, Game Center, and LLL Game. Specifically, our live streaming content related to the QQ Celebrity All-Star Tournament attracted a large number of users to watch in QQ Mobile. Our mobile MAUs of HUYA Live reached 74 million in Q3, representing a year-over-year growth of 16%. but slightly lower than last quarter because of the relatively shorter summer vacation period and a higher base for the first half of the year due to the impact of COVID-19. However, our HUYA Life app's next month's retention rate continuously stabilized at over 70% in Q3. Our success in delivering solid financial results and continuous user growth underscores our capabilities in driving monetization and user engagement. Our thriving community reflects our team's continuous efforts, along with deeper cooperation with Tencent to enrich content and make our products and services more innovative and attractive, delivering even greater value to ensure a superior user experience. In September, we upgraded our HUYA Life app to the 8.0 version, featuring novel functions such as live event instant playback, on-the-fly video clip generation and sharing, smart AI assistant, and a real-time monitoring panel. With these new functions, users are allowed to choose any specific time interval within a live streaming event to replay, mark the esports event highlights, and generate video clips from live streams to share with friends. Furthermore, there is a smart assistant on top of the app featuring AI-enabled interactions to enhance users' viewing experience. Meanwhile, our technology cooperation with Tencent also allowed us to create a real-time monitoring panel for esports tournament broadcasting. With this new panel, our hardcore viewers could obtain more information on the tournament and better analyze the game playing status. We believe these upgrades represent an exciting opportunity to innovate, provide new experience for our users, and grow our user base. In October, we formed a joint lab with Tencent to carry out joint technology efforts in various fields such as AI security applications, irregular activity detection, data security, and data annotation. We believe we can work together to improve AI-driven compliance on the platform and improve the health of the industry. Since we launched our open platform for third-party application developers in November last year, we have empowered a growing number of third-party developers to develop tools to be used in HUYA's products, mainly to improve interactions between broadcasters and users. It's been almost a year now, and we are glad that there have been around 160 tools developed and over 300,000 broadcasters have used these tools by end of Q3. We are confident our open platform will level up the interactions between broadcasters and users with innovative and dynamic features. During the most recent LOL Awards 2020 that was concluded end of October, we introduced new features and functions to help make the S10 broadcasting on HUYA more innovative, immersive, and game integrated. In addition to our upgraded 8.0 app. We also provide users high definition and latency-free viewing experience in 4K. We introduced a virtual broadcaster HUYA to interact with real person broadcasters and viewers to improve experience. We also launched a Tencent-supported S10 Live Viewer Passport. Having this viewer passport, users of HUYA will be able to gain awarded badges, game accessory items, or game skins within LOL once they have completed certain engagement activities during tournament viewing on HUYA, such as sending bullet chats, virtual gifting, or viewing time. Lastly, I would like to share some of my thoughts on the ongoing merger with DouYu. On October 12, 2020, we announced with DouYu that we are entered into a merger agreement where we plan to acquire all the outstanding shares of DouYu through a stock-for-stock merger. Once the merger is effective, each ordinary share of DouYu will be exchanged for 7.3 Class A ordinary shares of HUYA, and each DouYu ADS will be exchanged for 0.73 HUYA ADS. If the merger is completed, the shareholders of HUYA and DouYu will each hold approximately 50% of the shares of the combined company on a fully diluted basis. Concurrent with the merger, DouYu will buy Tianjuan Esports from Tencent for $500 million. We believe the potential combination will allow us to build on our complementary strengths, achieve significant synergies, and create more value. By joining together with DouYu and Tianjuan's professional team, we are solidifying our dedication to the pursuit of constructing a comprehensive online destination for game and esports-related content. With that, I will now turn the call over to our CFO, Catherine, to share her insights on the operating metrics and the financial details. Catherine, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Dong, and hello, everyone. Following Mr. Dong's remarks, I will start from the updates on content enrichment and diversification. In Q3, we broadcasted 119 third-party esports tournaments, among which the top tournaments included LOL Worlds 2020, LPL 2020 Summer, HOK World Champion Cup, LCK, and KPL Fall 2020. Total viewership for these tournaments reached a historical high of around 785 million in the third quarter, representing 40% year-over-year growth. On the front of our self-produced content, we organized 34 esports tournaments and entertainment shows and generated a total viewership of 100 million, representing 32% year-over-year growth. Following its success last quarter, HUYA's Destiny Cup Season 7 maintained its growth momentum and brought in more users than last season. Additionally, HUYA All-Star Cup Summer 2020 also performed well and built itself a signature event for Peacekeeper Elite on HUYA's platform. On the entertainment PGC show side, Godlight Season 5, a long-standing Werewolf game show, All-Star Idol Academy, a talent show, and HUYA Kung Fu Carnival Season 2, a mixed martial arts competition, were the top performing shows as we continued our dedicated steps in the non-gaming entertainment content. Talking about the traffic in this quarter, our average MAUs increased by 18% year over year to a record high of 173 million, and average mobile MAUs reached over 74 million, representing an increase of 16% year over year. The paying users for HUYA Live increased by 13% year over year to 6 million in the third quarter, but decreased slightly compared with 6.2 million in the second quarter. The number of our paying users is typically directly associated with the number of our mobile MAUs. The fluctuation in our mobile MAUs this quarter, which was due to the shortened summer vacation period from the COVID-19 impact, resulted in the quarterly fluctuation in our paying users. The live streaming revenue per paying user for HUYA Live remained strong and increased both year over year and quarter over quarter. For our overseas business, we achieved over 30 million MAUs in the third quarter. The better than expected growth was mostly because we introduced more esports tournaments, attracted more broadcasters, and deepened our relationship with local game developers. Next, I will walk you through our financial highlights. In Q3, our total net revenues grew by 24% year over year to over RMB 2.8 billion. Our live streaming revenues increased by 23% year over year to close to RMB 2.7 billion in Q3. The growth was primarily due to the increased number of paying users and the increase in revenue per paying user, both of which have expanded. Advertising and other revenues increased by 45% year over year to close to RMB 158 million in the third quarter, primarily driven by the increasing and diversifying number of advertisers. Our profitability continued to improve this quarter, given the leverage we have in bandwidth cost and our operational efficiency. Our non-GAAP gross margin improved to 22.7% compared with 18.3% in Q3 2019. Our non-GAAP operating margin was 11.8% compared with 6.5% in Q3 last year. And our non-GAAP net margin was 12.8% compared with 9.1% in Q3 last year. Now, let me move on to our financial details. Cost of revenues increased by 18% to RMB 2.2 billion for Q3, primarily attributable to the increase in revenue sharing fees and content costs, as well as personnel-related costs. Revenue sharing fees and content costs increased by 21% to RMB 1.8 billion in the third quarter, primarily due to the increase in revenue sharing fees in relation to higher live streaming revenues and increased spending in content creators, esports, and self-produced content. The year-over-year increase was partially offset by benefits from economies of scale. Bandwidth costs decreased by 1.4% to RMB 208 million for the third quarter, primarily due to improved management in bandwidth cost and continued technology enhancement efforts. Gross profit increased by 53% to RMB 621 million for the third quarter, and gross margin increased to 22% for the third quarter. Research and development expenses increased by 35% to RMB 183 million for the third quarter, mainly attributable to increased personnel-related expenses. Sales and marketing expenses increased by 18% to RMB 144 million for the third quarter. The increase was primarily attributable to the increased marketing expenses in the summer to promote the company's content, products, services, and brand name, as well as increased personnel-related expenses. General and administrative expenses increased by 23% to RMB 119 million in the third quarter, mainly due to the increased professional fees associated with the company's ongoing merger process with Douyi. Operating income increased by 249% to RMB 223 million for the third quarter, and operating margin increased to 7.9% for the third quarter. Non-GAAP operating income, which excludes share-based compensation expenses, increased by 125% to RMB 331 million for the third quarter, and then the non-GAAP operating margin increased to 11.8%. Income tax expenses increased by 82% to RMB 51 million for the third quarter. Net income attributable to HUYA Inc. increased by 105% to RMB 253 million for the third quarter. Non-GAAP net income attributable to HUYA Inc., which excludes share-based compensation expenses, increased by 75% to RMB 361 million for Q3. Diluted net income per ADS was RMB 1.05, and the non-GAAP diluted net income per ADS was RMB 1.5 in the third quarter. As of September 30th, 2020, the company had cash and cash equivalents, short-term deposits, and short-term investments of RMB 10.8 billion. Along with the merger announcement that Mr. Dong mentioned earlier, our board of directors also approved a cash dividend in the aggregate amount of $200 million to be paid on or around the date of the closing of the merger to the holders of ordinary shares of HUYA, including the holders of ADS, HUYA ADS holders, as of the close of the business on certain record date after the date when the required Douyi shareholder approval is obtained and prior to the closing of the merger. Such record date and payment date will be designated by HUYA's authorized officer and will be announced in due course. Here's another update that just happened today. We obtained the usage right today to a piece of land with an area of approximately 29,258 square meters in Foshan City, Guangdong Province, through a public auction. The company's winning bid price was approximately RMB 310 million. The company intends to develop office space on the land in order to accommodate future workforce expansion and reduce the long-term operating costs and expenses. With that, I would now like to open the call to your questions.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now begin the question and answer session. To ask a question, please press star 1 on your telephone and wait for a name to be announced. To cancel, you can also press the pound or hash key. For the benefit of all participants on today's call, if you wish to ask your question to management in Chinese, please immediately repeat your question in English. And our first question comes from the line of Thomas Zhang of Jefferies. Please go ahead.
晚上好，谢谢管理层接受我的提问。我的问题主要是关于2021年的展望。管理层可以分享一下，如果是从用户数、收入还有盈利方面呢，我们对明年的预期大概会是怎么样的？然后还有就是我们跟腾讯跟斗鱼的协同效应，从战略方面呢也可以分享一下。Thanks management for taking my questions. My question is more about the 2021 outlook, in particular in terms of the user growth, revenue and profitability trend, as well as how we should think about the synergies with Tencent, and DouYu, if there's any color at this stage. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. I will answer your questions. As currently we're still in the process of the ongoing merger, and we expect the merger could be possibly completed in the first half of next year. So at this stage, it's still too early for us to tell the quantitative impact of the merger. So I think we probably would not be able to give you quantitative measures on this. But for the big direction, we still intended to grow our users and explore new monetization opportunities and grow revenues, and also improve our operational efficiencies. In terms of the potential synergies with DouYu and Penguin, we think there are several directions that could generate synergies, such as leveraging our content over a larger user base to attract the users, and also to develop new products and together explore new monetization opportunities, and also to achieve some operational efficiencies. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Next question comes from the line of Vincent Yu of Needham & Co. Please go ahead.
Thank you, management, for taking my question. My first question is about the content strategy. How should we think about HUYA's content strategy going forward, especially after the merger? Will we see a shift from our current gaming plus pen entertainment content offering? Second question is on the users' willingness to pay. We are wondering, do we see any change in our top paying user cohorts, or for the user cohort in different categories, like for gaming and for other pen entertainment category? Are we seeing any change after, considering the COVID has mostly gone in China? 我中文说一下，就是两个问题。第一个是关于这个虎牙的我们视频内容的策略，尤其在合并之后，我们在内容的提供上面会不会从现在比较偏重于游戏加泛娱乐的方面有些更改。然后第二个问题是关于我们用户的数据吧，就是说他们的付费数据在不同的这些游戏和泛娱乐方面，尤其是在现在疫情国内基本上就是相对来说没有那么大影响情况下，我们看到有什么变化吗？谢谢。
好啊，我来回答第一个问题啊，就是虎牙明年的内容策略，就是说我们有几点吧。第一点的话呢，就是我们可能要加强类似游戏全家桶这样的布局了，就是除了游戏直播这条线之外，我们还是希望能够把游戏视频啊、游戏社区啊、游戏媒体啊、游戏工具等等这些都能够做起来。对，这是游戏全家桶这一块。然后呢，就是当然里面最重要的游戏视频了。我们其实最近花了很多的时间在研究游戏视频以及做前期的布局。我们整体认为还是比较有信心，对，能够在接下来2年之内，游戏视频做到一个可观的数量级。对，这是游戏视频这一块了。然后另外的话，内容策略的话，可能也跟我们这个合并会有一定关系。我们整体上，我们认为一旦合并完成，对我们两家的内容会更加的厚实。然后呢，就是我们的内容的优势会相对的比以前会更加明显。虽然我们也知道，游戏直播这个行业，即使我们合并了，它依旧是一个非常充分竞争的一个行业。但是从虎牙斗鱼的维度来说，我们其实认为就是对明年就是希望能够把两家公司的优质的内容整合好，对，然后呢能够利用这些优质的内容，以及利用这个合并以后，对吧，规模更大的用户， 能够为整个游戏这个产业链，包括游戏厂商、游戏用户，对吧？这个也包括比如说这个主播工会，能够这个对能够创造更大的价值吧。
Okay, I will translate for Mr. Zhong. Regarding your first question for our content strategy next year, actually there are several respects to talk about. First one is that what we are aiming to do currently is we would like to construct a one-stop shopping concept for building up a gaming content related family bucket to not only do what we are good at, game live streaming, but also to include game videos and game community and game related tools, adding that in total to our content and services offerings bucket so that viewers and the users can have a one-stop shopping experience on our platform. And secondly, specifically on the video strategy next year, actually we have been doing our own research and road mapping for the video business. And we have confidence that in the next 2 years, we will make the user base of our video business to a considerable level. And my last point about the potential combination and its impact onto our content strategy is that actually the two platforms, each of them has a very good pool of content quality, and the content are actually complementary to each other as each of us has its own competitive advantages. And in the year of 2021, what we are targeting at is to better consolidate the content offerings on each platform and leverage the quality content to better serve the game developers, the broadcasters, the talent agencies, as well as the users, just so that game live streaming can play a better role across the industry value chain. So that's for your first question.
Vincent, I will answer your second question in terms of paying users. As you can see, in the third quarter, our paying users ARPU has increased both year-over-year and quarter-over-quarter. I think generally we are seeing a recovery from after the COVID-19 has went down in China. We will still continue to enrich our content and improve our monetization opportunities to increase our ARPU. But of course, as you mentioned, different content categories have different ARPU, and also there is seasonality for our ARPU. So generally, in the first quarter, our ARPU would be relatively lower due to the Spring Festival, and in the fourth quarter, typically the ARPU would be higher given the annual monetization event. Hope I answered your questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for the question. Next questions will come from the line of Binnie Wong of HSBC. Please go ahead.
Hello, good evening, management. My question is actually on the overseas, right? Overseas users on the Nimo TV, and then if you look at this quarter, right, versus last quarter, you also added 3 million net add, which I think is actually achieving that 30 million target a quarter earlier than you might expect earlier. So if we look at it that way, what are the things that, or maybe what are some of the strategies or user acquisitions that you have done this quarter to achieve this 30 million level? And also, what are some of the synergies that you might see with DouYu overseas in the futures? Thank you.
好啊，那个海外的我来回答一下，就是大家看到的我们这个海外的这个用户的增长啊，这个坦率讲啊，就像我上一次这个电话会里面讲过一样，海外其实我们今年的这个策略是更多希望能够做 做这个生态的这个改善，以及做商业化的这个正循环。所以呢，其实我们今年其实在海外的这个渠道的费用啊，其实削减的幅度非常的大，我们削减的幅度可能原来的一半都没有1/4的样子。所以在这个渠道大幅度削减的情况下，我们能看到我们用户的增长，我觉得其实还是能够证明我们一开始制定的就是说希望能够把生态真正的建立起来，这个策略还是有一定的效果。对，所以就是从海外这个策略上来说，我们还是希望能够延续这个年初制定的这个策略了，还是希望我们不盲目追求用户规模的扩大，我们还是希望进了一个国家能够扎实把这个国家的这个游戏直播这个生态做好。对，我们其实虎牙做海外也现在到第3年了，我觉得我们到了今天，我们才基本上觉得我们已经有点搞清楚了海外的本地的游戏直播到底应该怎么做。对，所以我们可能未来就是这个我们的关注的重点应该还是会在这个生态的健康度以及财务的健康度上面。对，然后这个至于跟斗鱼的合作，因为坦率讲，就是不管虎牙也好，斗鱼也好，我们其实在海外我们目前都是比较早期的，所以我觉得我们2家之间的这个合作远大过于竞争，所以我觉得就是如果合并以后，我们虎牙和斗鱼在海外的这个业务线上面的合作应该是会非常顺畅的。
好的，行，谢谢。
Okay, I will translate for Mr. Dong. Regarding your first question on the overseas, yeah, it is noticeable that our overseas MAU user growth in this quarter is actually quite outstanding. And as we spoke last time in the earnings call, what we are focusing on in the overseas market this year is to better improve the ecosystem and to cultivate a better monetization model. So as with the last year's strategy, what we are doing this year is that for the channel buy to acquire the new users, we are actually cutting down the cost for that. So given that the channel buy has been cutting down, we still achieved considerable user growth for the overseas business. It actually proved our strategy to build up a ecosystem to be effective. So going forward, what we will strategically focus on is not only just to focus on a substantial user growth blindly, but more focus to build up and construct a healthy ecosystem. It actually has been the 3rd year for us to develop the overseas business, and we are starting to get the sense to understand how we can better build up the business in the overseas markets. And what we will focusing on in future is more constructing a healthy ecosystem and also improve the financial status of the overseas business. And regarding your second question for the potential synergies with Douyu's combination, especially on the overseas market, I think right now, whether it's for Douyu or for HUYA, the two parties are actually in a very early stage in terms of exploring the overseas market. So what we will do more right now is to focus more on the collaboration rather than to compete with each other. So I would believe the potential combination will create synergies in the overseas business as well.
Sorry, may I just ask a very quick follow-up here? If you look at the margin side, right, like how do you see the overseas when at a certain point that it could become more profitable? And longer term at a steady state, how will you see the overseas business margins compared to domestically?
For your question, I think in October we start to see one single country to achieve sort of relatively break-even in terms of operating margin side. But we think for the entire overseas business, we probably still need to invest for the next few years, because different countries have different, I would say, user behaviors. In some countries, the ARPU or the paying ratio would be higher than the other countries. So we think that in the next few years, it will still be at investment stage, but as Mr. Dong just mentioned, we will be focusing on building the healthy ecosystem in each country by each country. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for the questions. Next question comes from the line of Billy Leung of Haitong International. Please go ahead.
管理层好，谢谢接受我这个提问。我有2个问题，第一个问题是关于我们这个云游戏这个 Cloud Gaming，公司的管理层可以分享一下我们这个 Cloud Gaming 最近这个发展。还有第二个问题是关于我们之前这个推出来的这个新这个产品这个陪玩。公司也可以分享一下最近这个陪玩这个情况有没有什么更新可以分享一下。我自己翻译一下。Thank you, management, for taking my questions. I have 2 questions. The first one is related to our cloud gaming progress. Can management share any color on our latest developments in this part? And the second question is on our relatively new feature service, the Game Companion. Can management share any latest developments here as well? Thank you.
好啊，我来回答一下云游戏啊。这个虎牙的云游戏，整个的这个技术的后台都是虎牙自己研发的。对，我觉得这个可能跟有些公司不太一样啊。所以呢，就是我们其实在云游戏上面，就是花了大量的时间，把这个延迟啊，比如说这个端游如何在手机上适配啊等等问题，我们其实做了大量的这个优化，也花了很多的时间。对，我们最近其实正式的上线了。对，就是然后我们这个目前大概有100多款游戏。对，然后我们看了一下这个延迟的数据以及用户这个操作体验的这个效果，我觉得其实在目前的国内云游戏里面效果都还是非常好的。对，然后这个因为以往是这个内测，所以我们也是没有做更多的这个推广。我觉得我们可能接下来这个一段时间内，我们可以尝试这个加大推广。对，就是看看云游戏这个市场的时机是不是到了。当然这里面2个维度啊，第一个虎牙相信云游戏这个在未来是一个非常大的机会。对，但是比如说短期内它的这个用户是不是已经准备好？
Okay, regarding your first question on cloud gaming, actually what we want to highlight here is that the technology platform of this cloud gaming platform, HUYA, is completely developed by our own R&D personnel. And we have been spending a lot of time, and great endeavor has been made to reduce the latency and also optimize users' experience while they are playing the PC portal games on mobile devices through our HUYA cloud gaming platform. Actually, it was only yesterday that we have officially launched this HUYA cloud gaming platform after almost 4 months of beta testing, and we have been covered as many as 100 hit game titles right now. And what we are trying to achieve is that to optimize users' switching experience, for example, viewing angle switching, just so that they can better play the game seamlessly and smoothly through our cloud gaming platform and optimize their user experiences. As I said earlier, before yesterday, the cloud gaming platform was only on beta testing, which is why we didn't invest much into promoting this cloud gaming platform. But for now, given that it has been officially launched and can be downloaded through many app stores, we will try to better promote the cloud gaming platform and see if the market is ready for the user base to experience this cutting-edge technology to play games. We believe there is a huge opportunities right ahead for those cloud gaming business, and we will take every effort to realize the cloud gaming opportunities for our own business. But in the short term, probably we'll just wait for a little bit of time to see if the users are ready to massively switching their experiences and to try these cloud gaming platforms to play games. And Catherine will take your next question.
And for your second question regarding game companion business, our game companion business is still experiencing fast growth, especially for our app 小鹿陪玩. So we think it's relatively a solid growth for the game companion business. However, game companion business, because the revenue recognition policy is different from our virtual gifting, we are only recognizing net revenues for game companion business. So even though the charge of the game companion business is pretty significant, but then the revenue contribution is still relatively small. But then from the accounting perspective, the game companion business has much higher margins than the virtual gifting from pure GAAP accounting perspective. Okay, hope this answers your question. Next.
Thank you for the question. So our next question comes from the line of, sorry, we have lost the other request. I'll just proceed to take the next questions from Daniel Chen of JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
晚上好，管理层啊，我有两个问题啊，这个第一个问题是关于这个就是比较大的一个问题，就是我们看这个整个游戏的直播和这个短视频这两个子行业，我们觉得在未来几年在产品端还有在变现端最大的机会是什么？然后第二个问题是关于竞争的，就是还是关于快手和哔哩，因为他们两家现在在主播获取啊、工会的合作还购买版权这块都比较积极。那快手我们看到现在有2亿以上的游戏直播 MAU， 最近也是投了这个 VSPN， 就是这个他们做投资也挺激进的，就想问一下我们怎么看这个我们相对他们的一个竞争优势。I have 2 questions. The first one is is on the what do management think are the key opportunities in game streaming and the short video industry in the next 2 to 3 years in the product side and also on the monetization side. The second one is on the competition. So what's our key competitive advantage against Kuaishou and Bilibili, as both of them are quite aggressive in obtaining top hosts, top agencies, game broadcasting rights, and also Kuaishou has reached over 200 million game streaming MAU, which is quite large, and also very aggressive in the investment in the eSport value chain. Thank you.
对，我来回答一下，就是这个就是相比哔哩哔哩和快手来说，我觉得哔哩哔哩的情况相对比较成熟一些。整体认为，对他通过这个 UP 主转这个游戏直播，我认为这一波基本已经结束了。对，所以你能看到，我们认为对。接下来对就是这个 B 站在游戏直播对虎牙斗鱼的冲击应该不会特别大，对，这是第一个。第二个的快手的话呢，就是就像这个因为这个最近快手也公布一些数字啊，但我觉得这里面也是希望大家能够关注是快手我们内部看到的数据，快手其实年对年我们能看到其实对就是在游戏直播上面实际的 对行业的冲击并没有大家想象的大，但是我们当然理解它体量非常大，所以我们虎牙对于这个快手在游戏直播上面的冲击的观点是这样的，我们整体是认为，对，就是这个游戏直播这个行业，它的这个业务形态跟短视频这个行业，尤其像快手这种偏社区的行业有一定的区别。对，我们是一个偏这个内容主动运营，相对这个会多一点，然后像快手这样的就是偏平台规则会多一点。对，我觉得这个地方可能是比较大的一个区别。所以从这个地方来说的话呢，您看到就是虎牙历史以来我们在跟公会和主播之间的这个联动一直是虎牙的一个优势。对，就是我们一直可以非常好的这个和我们的这个合作伙伴，比如说公会啊、主播啊之类的，对吧？一起把这个主播的这个运营效率，对，不管是用户的运营效率以及收入的运营效率，我们都可以做到这个比较极致的一个状态。对，所以整体来说，我觉得大概就是这些吧。
Okay, regarding your question on the competitive landscape facing the entrance of Kuaishou and Bilibili, I will start with the competition with Bilibili. I think for Bilibili itself, the growth brought by transforming their VTubers to the broadcasters has already come to an end, which is why we think Bilibili's impact to the traditional players of the game live streaming industry is quite limited. And facing the competition with Kuaishou, I think from what we have monitored internally, especially on the year-over-year growth, I think their impacts to the game live streaming business is also not so big, especially thinking about that. Yes, of course, they're huge, but the impact and the relevance is quite different. Here is HUYA's point facing this Kuaishou's competition. What we are doing right now, especially on the game live streaming side, is that we focus more on the content, on building up the content library proactively. Well, Kuaishou, their short form business kind of operation are focusing more on constructing a community kind of ecosystem, that they have their decentralized policies for running the operations. So historically, what we are good at is that HUYA has been in a very good alliance with the industry players such as the talent agencies and the broadcasters. And this has been our advantages especially facing Kuaishou's competition. I think we can leverage this kind of a collaboration with industry players to better improve the operating efficiency, to drive user growth, and to improve our monetization capabilities. That's it.
Thank you for the questions. In the interest of time, the last question comes from the line of Lei Zhang of Bank of America. Please go ahead.
Hi， 管理层晚上好，谢谢接受我的提问。然后我有一个问题，其实是关于这个英雄联盟 S10的，我们有没有一些关于 traffic 或者 engagement 的数据可以 share 一下？还有，这个游戏可能4Q 的话，对我们的 gross margin 的 impact，有一些 color 可以给一下吗？然后我第二个问题可能是因为我之前掉线了，不知道大家有没有问，就是想问一下最近的监管对我们的影响，尤其是可能是直播的新规定对我们会不会有一些 potential 的 impact？I will translate myself. Thanks management for taking my question. My first question is about League of Legends S10. Can you share any color on the traffic or engagement to our platform, and what's the drive to our growth margin in fourth quarter? And secondly, on the regulatory change recently, especially on live streaming's new rule and the impact you can share with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lei. As to the S10, we have noticed that the sort of the user brought by S10 compared to last year has increased, but then the incremental, I think the growth in this year was relatively lower compared to last year. And for S10, because most of the S10 was held in the fourth quarter, so the costs for the S10 would be mostly recognized in the fourth quarter, which will have some impact on our gross margin compared to the third quarter. And as to your second question, in terms of the authorities' policies or guidelines, we are cooperating with the government, and we understand some authorities or governments are trying to implement new guidelines. We are actively discussing with the government, and of course, when the actual guideline is going to be issued, we will be cooperating and be in compliance with the guidelines. So we think if the guidelines is going to be issued, then we will then value the impact of the business at that time. But we believe that the government or authorities are trying to help the live broadcasting to better roll in the long term. So we don't think the impact for our business would be long term. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to turn the call back over to the company for closing remarks.
All right. Thank you all for joining our earnings conference call today. And if you have further questions, feel free to reach out to ir@huya.com. And we look forward to speaking with you in the next quarter. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes this conference call. You may now disconnect your lines. Thank you.